All right, I'm looking at the Fibble. This is the game that's just like Wordle, but on every row, one of the clues is a lie. They're starting us with slice. Let's do the I and the E. How about? So we could do I don't know, drive. Sure. Okay, well, one of the E's is a lie, one of the I's is a lie. Perfect. Everything else has to be true. So if we do this, we could do IRE. That would work. But what do we want to do with that? Man, we gotta have there's, the problem is, for the double consonant, oftentimes it's something R, something L. We can't do either one of those. We could also put the R at the beginning, something like raise, but there's no S. Man, there's got to be something like this. But we could put a vowel, a fire. We could put a vowel at the beginning instead of trying to do a double consonant. Okay, well, one of these E's is a lie, so the gray I is true. That's a lie. That's true. That's true. That's a lie. There we go. I mean, the A at the beginning is probably the lie. What if we did something like this? Yeah, and then no E, that would work. But what would that be? We could also do the R at the end. Something like favor, but there's no V. Wow. Okay. So maybe the A is here. And that doesn't work either. So, I mean, the F doesn't have to be there. Could we do ARF? No, because we can't. What if there's no A at all? The A is the lie because there's no A, not because the A is supposed to be somewhere else. We could do fourth. Oh, okay. Well, one of the F's is a lie, but that's not okay. If the H is true, what's gonna come before the H? That's the real question, right? You could do a GH, but you'd have to do. It's interesting. So you'd then have to have the R is true, so there could be no F, but then you'd have to have the A at the beginning. Or there's no, yeah, I don't think that works. I don't think it's gonna work to do the H at the end because you can't do. Well, we could do this, but then you'd have to have the O at the beginning. And then since there's no F, you'd have to have the A at the beginning. Interesting. If there's no F, then there's an A at the beginning. So if this is true, then that's true. Because this F has to be the lie. And with the H, we can't put a C or an S before it. We could put a P, I guess? Something like morph? But I don't think that's going to work because, like we said, if there's no F, then you have to have the A at the beginning. And if you do TH, then the T is the lie, and there's no F, and again, you have to have the A at the beginning. But if you have the A at the beginning and you have RTH, then there's nowhere to put the O because the O has to be true. So I don't think we can do the H at the end. I mean, I guess if the R was the lie, you could do. If the R is the lie, and it's at the beginning, because we're assuming there's the H, then the A has to be the lie in a fire, which means you have to have an F, you're going to have an O, and not second. No. It's not going to work. We can't do the H at the end, so that has to be the lie, which means all of these are true, which means that's a lie, and these are true. So there's an A and an R, and we need arrow. Arrow. Oh, no, we can't do the R second. What is that going to be? Apron. Apron. There we go. All right. Well, man, I don't know. As usual, I was just having trouble coming up with things that would work with all of the clues. It helps when you get the contradictions. You know, like we started with the I and the E, and we knew some stuff right away, but then we weren't quite getting contradictions, but enough information that it was really limiting things. We just had to find the right thing it was limited to. So anyways, there you go. Let me know how your solve of this Fibble went today. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more.